Welcome to my channel Battlefield Stories. The wind screamed through the open side doors of the UH-60 Black Hawk as tracer rounds carved red lines across the night sky. The mountains below were jagged shadows, a killing ground lit only by muzzle flashes. 30 seconds. The crew chief yelled, but no one heard him over the roar. Captain Maya Rourke gripped the side rail, blood streaking down her cheek, her headset buzzing with fractured radio chatter. The mission had gone bad. Ambush, heavy fire, bird hit. The left engine was coughing black smoke, and the pilot's voice cracked with panic. Mayday. 2-2 Bravo taking fire. We're hit. Tail rotors gone. Then the explosion. The blast tore through the rear compartment, tossing bodies like ragdolls. The world tilted sideways. The helicopter lurched, spun, then caught a violent gust. Maya felt herself ripped from the cabin, out into open air, into chaos, into darkness. No parachute, no plan, just gravity and firelight. She didn't scream. She didn't have time. Because Rangers don't scream, they think. And as the ground rushed up, she thought about her team still on the ridge, about the civilians they were sent to protect, about the promise she made to a dying corporal 2 years ago. No one gets left behind. Then, impact. Pain exploded through her side as she slammed into treetops, branches snapping, shredding, slowing her just enough before she crashed into the earth with a thud that knocked her soul halfway out of her body. Silence, smoke, blood, and then, breathing, hers. She was alive. When Maya opened her eyes, the night was still bleeding fire on the horizon. Her comms were dead, her rifle bent. She spat dirt and forced herself to her feet, one arm cradling what felt like broken ribs. She was miles from the crash site, alone, cut off, no weapon that worked. But there were people up there. Her people, and she wasn't about to let them die. She checked her compass, oriented by the burning ridge, and started climbing. Every step was agony, but she kept going, boots sliding in mud, lungs burning from smoke. Halfway up, she heard movement, shuffling, a voice whispering in Pashto. Maya froze. Then, slowly, she ducked behind a rock. 2 insurgents were dragging someone, American gear, limp arms. Her heart seized. Ramirez, she whispered. He was still alive, barely. They were taking him uphill, toward the ambush site. Maya's hand went to her sidearm. Empty. Her rifle, cracked barrel, knife, gone. All she had was a flare, a half-broken radio, and her will. She threw a rock to the left, drawing the guard's attention. When one turned, she bolted. A blur in the dark. She hit the first man low, slamming her elbow into his throat. He fell without a sound. The second swung his rifle. She ducked, drove her shoulder into his chest, and used his own weapon to finish it. It was over in seconds. She knelt beside Ramirez. His pulse was faint, his leg shredded. Cap, he croaked. You fell. Didn't stick the landing, she said softly, binding his wound with her torn sleeve. You're not dying here. Bird's gone. I know. He looked at her with glassy eyes. You can't carry me. Watch me. She lifted him. Fireman's carry, every bone in her body screaming, but she moved. Step by step. Because Rangers don't stop. Hours blurred together. Gunfire in the distance, the hiss of radio static, the weight of another life on her shoulders. At dawn, she found the wreck. The Black Hawk was twisted metal and smoke. Bodies scattered. But not all of them were still. The pilot was alive, trapped under a mangled seat. Captain, he gasped. She dropped Ramirez gently and ran to him. Stay still. I've got you. He looked at her in disbelief. We saw you go out the door. I bounced, she said dryly. She used a crowbar from the wreckage to pry the metal free. When he finally crawled out, bloodied but breathing, he just stared at her. How are you even standing? Adrenaline. And bad decisions. She looked around. 3 survivors, counting her. No radio. No bird, enemy territory. Okay, she said, her voice calm. We go downhill. Follow the river. Extraction points 30 clicks west. If we move fast, we make it before sunset. Ramirez stirred weakly. Cap, you should leave me. I'll slow you down. Maya crouched, meeting his eyes. You slow me down, I slow them down. That's how it works. No one argued. They moved. By midday, the sun burned over the ridge. Maya's uniform was soaked in blood, hers and everyone else's. Her ribs screamed with each breath, but she kept scanning the tree line, one hand steady on her borrowed rifle. At the river, they stopped for water. The pilot, Carter, looked at her. "You could have let us go. You'd already done enough." "Enough isn't finished," she said simply. He smiled weakly. "You sound like someone who's done this before." "I've done worse." Before he could ask, gunfire erupted from the ridge. Down. Bullets cracked into the dirt. Maya rolled behind a boulder, scanning the opposite bank. 5 tangos, maybe 6. She was outnumbered, out-armed, but not out-willed. "Cover him," she told Carter. "What are you doing?" "Evening the odds." She slipped into the water, using the current to mask her movement. The cold bit into her ribs like knives, but she stayed low, silent, unseen. When she emerged on the far side, she was behind them. A breath, a heartbeat. Then she moved. Fast, precise, brutal. By the time Carter looked up, it was over. She was standing alone, rifle smoking, eyes distant. He stared at her like he was seeing something beyond human. "What the hell are you?" Maya exhaled, chest rising and falling. Rangers don't need parachutes. By the second night, they'd made 15 miles. Rain poured in sheets, turning the jungle into mud. Ramirez was barely conscious, whispering half-dreamed words. Maya built a makeshift shelter, using a poncho and branches. She checked his pulse, weak, but steady. Carter sat nearby, cleaning his weapon. "You ever get scared?" he asked. "Every day," she said. "So how do you keep going?" She looked at him, eyes tired but burning with something deeper. "Because someone has to." He nodded slowly. "You really think we'll make it?" "I don't think," she said. "I plan to." At dawn, they moved again. The rain stopped, the air thick with silence. Then, a voice, faint, through the static. "This is Falcon 1 to any ground units. Response check, over." Maya grabbed the half-dead radio. "Falcon 1, this is Bravo 7. We need evac, 3 survivors, coordinates incoming." "Copy, Bravo 7. How the hell are you alive?" She smiled faintly. "Long story. Hold position." 20 minutes. They reached a clearing just as the thump of rotors filled the air. A new Black Hawk descended, kicking up dust. Carter laughed in disbelief. Ramirez tried to raise his hand in a salute. Maya helped them aboard, exhaustion finally catching up. But as she turned to climb in, something shifted in the tree line. Movement. Figures, armed. "Contact," she shouted. The door gunner opened fire. Bullets raked the jungle. Carter reached for her arm. "Maya, get in." She turned once more. Saw a child, maybe 10 years old, hiding behind a rock, eyes wide with terror. Without thinking, she ran. She scooped the boy into her arms as rounds chewed the dirt around them. Then she sprinted. Pain forgotten, heart hammering, back toward the helicopter. Carter leaned out, screaming. "Jump." She did, and as she leapt, the world seemed to slow. The roar of the blades, the smell of cordite, the faces staring from the doorway. She hit the ramp hard, clutching the boy. The crew pulled them in, doors slamming shut behind. For a moment, everything was quiet except the sound of her heartbeat. Then the pilot's voice crackled. "All souls aboard. We're clear." Maya collapsed against the wall, breath shaking. The boy clung to her uniform, trembling. Carter sat across from her, eyes wide with awe. "They threw you from a helicopter," he said softly. "And you still saved one more life." She looked down at the child. "That's what Rangers do." He nodded. "You're not human, are you?" She smiled faintly. "Human enough." When they landed at the forward base, medics rushed in. Ramirez was wheeled off. Carter followed. Maya stayed seated, the boy still asleep in her arms. The base commander, Colonel Reeves, approached slowly. "Captain Rourke, we thought you were Kia." "Almost was." He eyed her torn gear, blood-stained face, the calm in her eyes. "How the hell did you survive a fall like that?" She shrugged. "I hit the ground running." Reeves chuckled. Typical Ranger answer. Then his gaze softened. "You saved your team. And that boy. I'll make sure command knows." She shook her head. "Just make sure they go home." He nodded. "You will too." Maya looked toward the horizon, where the storm clouds broke into a sliver of sunlight. Maybe. Days later, As the sun set over the base, Maya walked alone along the tarmac. Her ribs were healing. Her scars, new and old, would fade eventually. Carter caught up with her. Heading home, she smiled. Home's a moving target, he chuckled. You know, the story's already spreading. About the ranger who fell from the sky and kept fighting. She stopped, looking out at the endless sky. Let them talk. He studied her for a moment. You ever going to tell anyone how you really survived that fall? Maya turned to him, eyes glinting. You already know the answer. He nodded. Because rangers don't need parachutes, she finished. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain and diesel. The next mission loomed, as they always did. But for the moment, there was peace. She looked up, the rotor wash whipping her hair as another helicopter lifted into the sky. And though the world would never know her name, the men she saved would never forget. Because some heroes fall, and rise higher than ever. And some stories, like hers, don't end. They just keep flying.